Oh, hey. Sorry, guys. Just watching a game. So I'm Alex. Thanks for clicking, and welcome to this lesson on talking about sports. So today I'm going to look at some of the basic vocabulary that we use to talk about our favorite teams, what happened in the game yesterday, and this is useful to talk about soccer, football, hockey, baseball, almost any team sport that you can think of, and maybe some single sports as well. So today I have a sample situation, realistic or non-realistic. I mean, depends what year it is, I guess. Here we have the score of a soccer game in the English Premier League. It's Arsenal 2, Chelsea 1. So some of the most common questions that you ask if you've watched the game yesterday in the past was, who played? What was the score? Who won? So these are the three most common questions that sports fans ask about a game that just happened. So I'm going to look at some of the most common vocab to start, and then I'll look at some more specific situations. So here are 5 different sentences, the 5 most common sentences that you use when you talk about one team defeating another team or beating another team. So if we talk about who played yesterday, you could say Arsenal played against Chelsea. So we say played against. They played against. You could say with, but it's not as common. Normally we say they played against each other or they played against one another. Now here, the score is Arsenal 2, Chelsea 1. So we can say Arsenal won against Chelsea. You could also say Arsenal won 2-1 against Chelsea, the score. And very common, Arsenal beat Chelsea. So very common verb when talking about sports is beat. Now, on the other side, if you want to talk about the loser, we can say Chelsea lost against or Chelsea lost to Arsenal. Okay? So Chelsea lost against Arsenal, they lost to Arsenal. You can also say they lost 2-1, so you can give the score as well. And finally, this is the passive construction. Here we have Arsenal beat Chelsea, and in the passive sense, you can say Chelsea were beaten by Arsenal. So we don't say were beat, the past participle of beat is beaten, so you have to say Chelsea were beaten by Arsenal. They were beaten 2-1, okay? And again, no offense to Chelsea fans. I'm just an Arsenal supporter, so that's just me. Now, let's look at some other situations that happen in sports, team sports specifically. Here we have some different scores, different situations. So here we have a game where it's Manchester United and Liverpool, and the score was 1-1. So we can say the game ended in a draw, or the game ended in a tie. So these are the 2 words that you need to know if the score is the same. So if the score is 1-1, 2-2, 0-0, you can say the game ended in a draw or the game ended in a tie. You can also just say, oh, they tied, or they tied 1-1, they tied 2-2, okay? Here we have another situation. Arsenal 5, Everton 0. So in this situation, Arsenal won by a large difference of goals. So if one team dominates the other team on the scoreboard, we can say it was a blowout. So here we have blowout. So think of the word blowout. So here we can say that Arsenal blew Everton out. So they blew them out. They blew them out. Arsenal blew Everton out. And you can also use the passive where Everton, they were blown out. So here you use they were blown out in the passive construction for Everton. They were blown out. Arsenal blew them out. Okay? And here the game was a blowout. It was not even close. It was not close. Now here we have Real Madrid 3, Barcelona 2. it sounds like a very exciting game, a close game. So if you have a close game, you can just say, it was a close game. If you want to get a little bit more, I'll use the term slangy, I guess use a little bit of more slang. You can say it was a nail biter. So think of your nails and you're watching the game. It's so exciting. It's so close and you're so nervous that you're biting your nails. So you can say the game was a nail biter. It was a close game. Okay? All right, guys. So to learn to talk about sports, that's what we did today. And again, quick review. Arsenal played against Chelsea. Arsenal won against Chelsea. Arsenal beat Chelsea. I just like saying that. It sounds so satisfying. Chelsea lost against Arsenal. They lost to Arsenal. They were beaten by Arsenal. And if the game is close, or if it ends in 1-1, 2-2, 3-3, the game ended in a draw or a tie. You can also say the two teams tied. Sorry, there we go. And if the game had a large difference, you can say the game was a blowout. So Arsenal blew Everton out. They blew them out and they were blown out. And if the game is close, you can say it was a close game or it was a nail biter. All right. Okay, guys, that's it for this lesson. If you want to test your understanding of this material, as always, you can do the quiz on engvid.com. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Go Gunners!